So, the 2020 Oscars are coming up quite soon, which will cover a whole bunch of films released in 2019. 2019 was arguably one of the best years for film in the previous decade. We got excellent films like Parasite and Marriage Story, and then we got stuff like The Joker, which wasn't a bad movie at all, but was nominated for way too many awards than it actually deserves. With the range of truly amazing movies that came out last year, it was quite obvious that some would be thrown under the bus by the Academy. Films like Ad Astra and Knives Out just managed to get at least one nomination, and other great films like Midsommar and Waves weren't even recognized. But one movie that was snubbed by almost every category was The Lighthouse, and I'm here to tell you why The Lighthouse deserves so much more. I know most people say that the Oscars don't really mean anything, which I disagree with. Sure, the Academy doesn't always live up to the expectations of the audience's collective conscience, hence why I'm making this video, but the Oscars do play a major role in celebrating the achievements in mostly amazing movies, and even popularizes some lesser known movies that aren't known by the general public. Because let's be real, almost everybody knows about the Oscars and their existence, but these people don't necessarily know most of the films that are nominated for the Oscar. The Oscars are a way for excellent and unpopular films to shine and hopefully gain traction, and it just so happens to be that The Lighthouse is an excellent and mostly less popular film that I believe deserves much more recognition than just one nomination for cinematography, because The Lighthouse definitely excelled in other categories, but sadly was snubbed. And just a little side note, I want to say that the cinematography in The Lighthouse was phenomenal, and it truly deserved the nomination, although 1917 is most likely going to win. And now that all that is out the way, I'm going to be listing through the categories I believe The Lighthouse deserves to be nominated for. Starting with the... From what I understand from the sound categories, sound editing are the sounds that are collected specifically for the movie and then edited in, and sound mixing are sounds that are created which are used within the movie. Well, that's what I read off Google, so if I go by that logic, the sound editing, along with the sound mixing in this movie, is great. The sound editing, whether it be the natural sound of the waves crashing against the shore, or the heavy rainfall, or even the different chirps and squawks with the seagulls, along with the more simple but equally effective use of common sounds like the creaking of floorboards, clanging of mugs, or the use of cutlery, really helps as a form of breaking away from the surreal and eerie atmosphere that is expressed with the sound mixing. The sound mixing in this movie is also really great, although there's only little portions of it. The most memorable ones are the siren screech and the unforgettable distorted screaming from Robert Pattinson at the end of the film. But the most effective use of sound mixing is presented right at the beginning of the film, being the continuous drone of the lighthouse horn. The sound effect becomes so familiar after the first few minutes and is drilled into the viewers' heads, causing them to identify the sound whenever it's played, even if the pitch is relatively soft. It's the sound mixing like this that eventually begins to turn the audience insane, along with the characters. The editing is very jarring and really adds to the surreal atmosphere that the film is creating. There's a mixture of horrifying fast cuts and unsettling slower cuts that almost feel nightmarish. I don't really have much to say about the editing, but it was really good and was definitely overlooked. The costumes in this movie are really simple but actually done very well. Sure, the movie is in black and white, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the costumes make you feel and believe that these guys fit their roles perfectly as lighthouse keepers. And these aren't even the only costumes used in the movie. Although the other costumes only appeared very briefly in the film, they still had excellent designs, being the barnacle-covered, almost Poseidon-looking Willem Dafoe, or even the costume of the siren that has some questionable details that I won't get into.
Don't let me go. Don't let me go, me boy. Don't let me go.
The production design in this movie is truly something special. The people who were involved in making this movie had to film in very uncomfortable weather conditions. Although it was cold and rainy and marshy, they still managed to create an amazing environment for the film to take place in. All members of the production of this movie had to spend hours a day in order for the creation of this film. And this dedication is immense. It is shown in the production design and the final product itself that so much care was put into this movie with all that hard work and bearability to film in an absolute shitstorm. And this created a believable environment for the film that worked out absolutely great. Just before I talk about this last category, I do want to say that I definitely believe this film should have been nominated for Best Picture, but I didn't talk about that because, as we all know, the Academy hates horror movies, and there was no chance that this film would have slipped into the Best Picture nominees. I also believe Robert Eggers should be credited for his directing, but he did really have a tough competition with all the other directors that were nominated. So, anyways, I think we all know what category is coming next. So, without further ado...
Hark! Hark! Triton! Hark!
Okay, Academy. You can snub Robert Pattinson, although he did an incredible performance. But, you can't leave out our main man, Willem Dafoe. Dafoe gives off one of the best performances in his career, and he's not even nominated. The Academy nominates him for excellent stuff like The Florida Project, but as soon as the movie gets the horror genre, the Academy is like, nah, who dis? It's really disappointing when Willem Dafoe creates such a lively and exciting character to watch, for him to get snubbed over something like Anthony Hopkins in The Two Popes. Like, what the fuck? If the scene of Willem Dafoe staring intensely at the camera, performing an absolutely amazing and mesmerizing monologue isn't enough, or the scene where he has been thrown into a pit, lying on the freezing cold, icy and muddy ground while still in character, and getting dirt plummeted onto his face isn't enough for the Academy to realize that he has provided an amazing performance, then I've lost all goddamn hope. So yeah, this has been my very short video explaining why The Lighthouse deserves so much more recognition at the Oscars. If you, for some reason, didn't read the warning at the beginning of the video, please go watch The Lighthouse and show it some support because it's an amazing movie. Also, if anyone is awake at 3 AM on the 10th of February in South Africa, I think that's the 9th of February for most of the world, I will hopefully be live streaming my live reactions to the Oscars, so that'll be something if you're interested. But anyways, sorry I haven't uploaded in a while, I don't really have an excuse. But after my Oscar stream, if I get around to do that, I do actually have another video planned, but who knows how long that will take to be released. So either I'll see you guys in like a week or a few months. Cheers.